Good evening, doctors. I think you're going to find this is one of the best webinars, if not the best, you have ever attended. And we're going to give you some insights of my 44 years of experience in treating patients. And out of that 44 years, half of those I've been formulating products. And Doug and I formulated back in the 90s together, and where we put our minds and his patents together, it's a whole new world. So let's just jump in and go for it. I thought this, those of you who are married with children could relate to this first slide. Those of you who are lady docs or married to ladies, you can understand this. She's got a baby in her hand and one pulling at her shirt. She gets a phone call and she says, "Can I call you back in about 5 years?" Well, right now with all of us, that's kind of the way it is. ICD-10s are here, compliance issues coming down the pipe. I mean, just insurance companies are giving us grief. It is a time where we are definitely under stress. What I want to really get you to understand tonight, more than you ever have before, is the interrelationship of the body. Particularly when you're talking about stress, you're talking about adrenals, you're talking about the general adaptation syndrome. Not only ties in the adrenals, but the immune system, the digestive system, and on and on. And we're going to really let you understand that tonight. The other part of that is when you upregulate the adrenals and you produce too much cortisol, you automatically shut down thyroid function. And the percentage of thyroid problems we have out there is just unbelievable. I mean, the word Hashimoto's, if I ever heard it in school, I don't remember it, and I have a really good memory back in those days. But now, I think Brett's youngest person he's treated was 3 years old with Hashimoto's. He's treated some girls at 13, 15, and of course, everything in between. So let's just look at this picture just a minute. Those of you who are acupuncturists, and if you've never taken any acupuncture, I'm going to encourage you to do that. Just read some books. Come to our seminars. Let's enlighten you on how the energy flows through the body. And the Chinese have done a very good job. The Japanese, the French, the English, of all tied into acupuncture energy. This is the law of 5 elements. You see fire on top, earth to the right, metal, water, and wood. So the way the body follows through here, the small intestine and the heart fire down to the right to metal, which is lung and large intestine. Then the energy goes over to the liver, and then it goes across to earth or the stomach and pancreas, and then down to the kidneys and bladder, the water area. But the destructive cycle of those areas on the outside called the co-cycle. And anytime you have stress from any kind, and I'm going to have slide after slide, here's what I found out in teaching through the years. People say listening to me is like drinking from a fire hose. It's because I'm so excited about what I see, how the body works, the miracles that we get, and I really want every patient to have that miracle, every doctor to have the miracle of treating. So my goal has always been, as I started teaching, is to tell people what I'm going to tell them, and then I tell them, and then I tell them what I told them. So when the fire hose is going on, don't panic, don't try to take notes. Clark will email all of you on here or signed up for here. This will go out tomorrow or the next day, and you'll get to listen to this again, because there's so many good slides I put together here, you're going to want to go back and study them. But as you look at this, you can just see, let's look at heart and small intestine on the top. Hate, cruelty, impatience. Just emotions alone cause you to go down the co-cycle to the liver, which causes decomposition. It causes a restriction. It causes fatty liver. Anytime you have anger, frustration, or jealousy, or envy, that goes directly to the liver, and then from the liver it goes on down to the water or kidney bladder, and that emotion is fear, and it goes on and on. So just emotions are a part of it. We're going to talk about all 6 steps that tie into here. But catch the vision from this slide of how everything affects everything. In fact, a book was written one time called Anything Can Cause Anything by a great chiropractor. I'm going to have Doug explain these next few slides he put together for us here about energy.
Well, I appreciate it, Dr. John, and I'm too excited about this and hearing your knowledge on the adrenals and thyroid, and it's been great as this was coming together and talking about the effects of nutrition and how the things that we're doing to try to create energy now is actually causing more adrenal fatigue and thyroid issues, and how we can actually fix them through natural approaches to healthier eating and also through very specific nutrients if they're delivered at the cell level. And that's where the predigestion that Dr. John will be talking about a little bit later comes in. But I think I want just to be able to, and Dr. John wanted me to explain some of these basics about energy and then how it relates to the adrenals and thyroid. And energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And that's very important to understand. It's only transferred. So the energy production process in the body, it involves cycles of releasing and restoring energy. That's what it does. And once we understand those cycles of how the body releases energy and then restores those energy molecules, then we're able to understand how the adrenals get fatigued and the thyroid and what we can do about it. The process, as you all know, is centered around energy, or adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And it's just this nucleotide that stores this chemical energy. And we understand that in the phosphate bonds and why methylation is important. But when those bonds are broken, then we have the energy, we have the ATP. And it's created by aerobic movement, anaerobic movement within the body and the skeletal muscles and the different organs. But what a lot of people don't know is there's very specific nutrients that we've been able to track down based on the research over the years that are key components to the creation of energy. In other words, the creation of ATP, what the body uses to make ATP. And those include coenzyme Q10, creatine, magnesium. They're all directly involved in the production of ATP. If we don't have those, we don't get ATP production. Also included in that are specific amino acids and nitrate-rich botanicals that are very important. And so these are the nutrients truly that we pull from the foods to be able to allow ATP to be produced. In other words, energy produced in the body. And so what we want to start off with is, hey, if you know of your patients that are consuming heavy caffeine products, they're taking these energy drinks, they're taking any type of synthetic energy, which is sugar, which is white flour, which is alcohol, which is tobacco, which is prescription drugs, not just talking about straight caffeine. None of those things provide the nutrients to create ATP, energy in the body. And we've got a lot of calls lately from doctors saying, okay, we got it, you have that vitality product, the natural vitality for energy, but what else to help with ATP production? So what we did today is we made a pack for you, a special custom pack. We have our machine that makes it for you, and it has vitality, longevity K2 in it with the CoQ10s and the K2, the creatines, amino acids, and adrenal to help so that if you need energy or your patients need good, true energy, they take this pack, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and they'll have enough energy throughout the day created from ATP that they won't have to rely on the donuts, the coffees, the energy drinks, and those types of things, because all of those things might provide energy, but it's a fake energy that actually fatigues the adrenal glands, and then we have those problems. So we want to start off by making sure that your patients know they can get true energy and also help fortify the adrenals at the same time.
I just wanted to capitalize on what you're talking about there, Doug, because maybe we've never even thought of it that way. I hadn't until you brought this up. We know that when people are taking coffee and energy drinks, what they're doing is they're whipping the adrenals into producing false energy. And you're calling this true energy because we're literally going back to the mitochondrial resuscitation, and we're rebuilding with the right nutrients to create true energy where they're not sacrificing any health or longevity. No wonder you call it Longevity D now with K2. If you guys missed that webinar, go back to brimhall.com and pull that up. Doug did an incredible job explaining how K2, along with CoQ10 and vitamin D, it's a whole new world here. In fact, let me say something to you here. As I mentioned at the very beginning, I see people are clicking on here like crazy right now. We had 150 people sign up for this, and some of you think you're going to church, you're a little bit late. But I mentioned at the very beginning, I've been in practice 44 years. It will start my 45th year in March, just a few months away here. And Doug has been around. He's a little younger than I am, but he's been formulating a little bit longer than I have, because only half of that time have I been a formulator. The rest of the time, I was just a user. But I have made over 200 formulations, and every one I've ever done works because I had a criteria system to formulate a product, I could use muscle testing, microscopic evaluation. I could use the literature to show me what happened in EAV, acupuncture meridian balancing. I could tell if a product was ever going to work. I've never made one that didn't work. But the key is, I worked for one company for 18 years, and many of you have used those products. In fact, one of my products is still their #1 seller. 50% of everything they ever sold was my product. And when I switched to go to a different company because of better manufacturing capabilities, and then that didn't work out, it's horrible for me because I've started all over again. But it's wonderful for you, and because what we have found now is the same products I have produced for over 20 years now, over 24 years, I now make with Doug's patented formulation capability. Imagine a standard process. We know they work. They just have to take too darn many of them to get the job done because they're so low in potency. But if 1 milligram of C or 1 unit of E helps because it's whole food organic, imagine what we have with the same amount of formulation. Like if it needed 25 milligrams when I formulated for another company, I still use 25 milligrams of adrenal, 80 milligrams of parotid, 25 milligrams of thymus, or whatever it is. It's the same amount, but now it's whole food, organic, non-GMO whole food that's already pre-digested. Gang, we have never had formulations like this. If you're continuing to use the old formulas, you just don't understand what we have created here. With Doug's, I mean, it threw Doug and I back together. I had no idea he had been able to develop this kind of nutrition here. So keep in mind when we're talking about the formulations, we're going to show them to you and tell you why we put each ingredient there and what it does. Remember now, the products we're putting in there will be the same milligrams before, but they're all naturally, organically methylated. They are organically syndicated, what I call the organic soup, where things work with all the cofactors naturally. So, Doug, just give us one more slide here where you tell us the difference between dangerous and non-dangerous stimulants.
Well, and thank you. And that's what really is important for us to understand and teach to our patients, that caffeine, sugars, the synthetic sugars, alcohol, smoking, any types of prescription drugs, even over-the-counter drugs, are stimulants that can be very addictive, and as Dr. John pointed out, they're fake energy and they make the adrenals work too hard and they get fatigued. When we work with non-dangerous, the actual nutrients the body uses to make ATP, the phytonutrients and nitrates from the green teas, the ginkgos, the B vitamins, CoQ10, creatine, and magnesiums, we're providing the nutrients to create true energy that does not fatigue the adrenals. So many people, and in closing, and I'll turn it back to Dr. John, this is so important. Doctors, so many people think that if you are doing something to improve your energy or to have your energy levels go up, that you're automatically fatiguing the adrenals. That is not true. If you take a look at it, the adrenals can work to help provide ATP at very high levels and very high amounts without being fatigued if they have the right nutrients and they're not getting the toxins and the stress from all of these dangerous stimulants. So if we will work with our patients to get them off these stimulants, and the problem is in doing that in the past they have no energy, but at the same time fix the thyroid and the adrenals through the protocols that Dr. John is going to be talking about with a good natural energy formula like the True Energy Pack, then you're able to get past the hump with the patient because they have the energy to continue on and clean up the thyroid and the adrenals and move from there. And I think that's really key. And that pack was just made today. We custom made it after consulting with Dr. John, and it'll be available tomorrow morning. So we'll talk more about that at the end. But Dr. John's all yours.
Yeah, so don't leave us at all because he's made an incredible special. I'll show you at the end. So stay with us here. Watch for the things that you see in this over here, like green tea and ginkgo and UMB and B vitamins and CoQ and creatinine, particularly magnesium. Because we're going to show you why it gets so deficient. In fact, many authorities out there that are in the natural world think magnesium is one of the greater deficiencies that we have. And when you think of spasm or contraction, think of magnesium deficiency. So that could be anything from colon spasm to kidney spasm to stone formation, etc. So this is what OPTI-ADRENAL looks like, and we're going to stay with that label. So you see the 6 steps to wellness on there. Most of the products that I developed, Doug and I are changing some around right now. So you'll see Optimal and then the product name. But OPTI-ADRENAL is one that we took everything I ever made that was an adrenal product before. I have this improved to where the absorption and usability is up to 300% better. And it's less expensive. So I have no idea why people are still using the old formulas I made, even though they were good. Now, when we formulate and when we see a patient, Dr. Brett and I really came up with this here. It says the questions you ask determine the answers you get. I got that from Tony Robbins. So we sat down and say, okay, here's a patient, here's the person in a wheelchair, here the diagnosis is MS, they have no bladder control. Here's what we say. What tissues are involved? What nutrition supports those tissues? How much nutrition and how much treatment do we do? And how do we do it? And how long? How do you know that? Prove it. What tools do you have to influence the area yourself as the physician? What tools can you give the patient? Do you use muscle testing? Do you use the SBN testing from the Brimlaw Advantage program? Do you in-office testing? And Doug has made some incredible in-office testing. Now, gang, I'm going to go so fast here tonight. You're going to have the slides. Again, don't try to take notes. Try to catch the big picture here. We'll send it out to you. But you're still going to have no idea how to put all this together without coming to homecoming. The last 3 days of January, and actually the last 4 days, because we're going to start Thursday evening, you need to get here because Clark's going to be there going over Thrive. Doug has class after class to teach you how to use all this nutrition. He has in-office testing where you can learn if a patient really needs it and demonstrate to the patient that need. Merkel's going to be there giving us all the befores and afters of blood testing, computer printouts with blood, hair, toxic urine test. We're going to have the guy over Beamer, Dr. Burka, over all the United States, and he studied right with the German doctors that developed this. We're going to have Jonathan Walker right there. He hardly makes personal appearances. We talked him in this to go over the peripheral neuropathy, and with the nutrition that we have now developed for him, that's part of where the CoQ10, vitamin D, and K2 came up because Jonathan wanted that, and we didn't have that together. And when we were treating with the Beamer and with the other nutrition, we just saw the need, and it's beyond our expectations. The methylated Bs also are beyond anything I have ever had to work with before. It's very exciting. Dr. Brett's going to be going over laser, and we're going to do cranial manipulation, visual manipulation, acupuncture balancing. The MD that's now working with Dr. Brett, Dr. Childs, actually a DO, osteopathic medicine, is going to talk to you the special lab tests he does in balancing weight and body contouring through evaluating hormones. And we're going to have Dr. Mead there with salivary hormones. Dr. Childs is going to cover blood diagnosis with hormones of both men and women. We're going to have the ability to measure the vascularity. Dr. Kessler and his team, he has a Russian doctor who's going to be there along with his wife. So we have 3 people doing the heart evaluation, heart rate variability. We're going to have measure literally the vascularity, give the nutrition, and then test people to show them different, show what the Beamer does, show what PEMF does. So please mark that on your calendar. I mean, some of the doctors have said, well, why don't you come to Atlanta and put this on? We don't want to have to come to Arizona. Well, we're only going to do one big one a year now because of the cost of everything. It cost me about $20,000 to put on that seminar. You think of the talent we have there. We have the best of the best in every area. So come and join us for that. And we're going to capitalize on this concept right here. Doug has developed nutrition for about every aspect of the body. But when you look at his essential fatty acids, they're plant-derived. They're one thing before they go to animals, so you don't have any of the negative side effects, and you have all of the positive effect of essential fatty acids. All the things that we'll talk about and cover at homecoming as well. Now, here's where I want you to get the big idea of the interrelationship of the adrenal and the thyroid. Now, remember, we are the only ones to ever have made a pre-digested glandular. The only ones. It's never been done before. Doug had never done it before I came along, and I said, well, I really want to use glandulars. Royal Lee used glandulars, but he didn't have what we have, and now that they're pre-digested and ready to go, it's a whole new world out here. So by understanding when the body is stressed out, and I'm going to see slide after slide to keep going over this, if emotional stress adds to physical stress, adds to toxic accumulation, adds to allergies, and it goes on and on. It's not one thing, it's 1 plus 1 plus 1, total 6 different ways we're getting zapped every single day. That throws us into what's called the general adaptation syndrome. Hans Selye is the one that did all the research on this, and he found out within 30 seconds, the animals started getting ulcerations. Within 30 seconds, the adrenals first started hypertrophying. After chronic stress, they actually plateaued, and eventually they degenerated where they can't keep up at all anymore. So when you're affecting the body with stress, you suppress the immune system because the thymus and the spleen shrink. The stomach literally gets inflamed. The thymus and spleen tissue are in this nutrient in a pre-digested format. And where Doug says normally to digest a nutrient, normally like a herb or another vitamin, they can pre-digest it within 12 to 24 hours. Some of the nutrients like parotid took 1 and 2 weeks in nature with the strongest natural enzymes you can have to break them down. So some people haven't got the kind of results they needed to from the old nutrition I formulated because it wasn't whole food organic pre-digested. So now we have a 300% better chance of helping people that haven't been helped before. So when this adrenal stress happens, it impairs thyroid function in 3 ways. It alters the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal axis. We call it the HPA axis. Adrenal stress stops the conversion of T4 to T3. Remember, T4 is the wood. There's no fire there. The T3 is the fire. But if cortisol is excess, it stops it from happening. And adrenal stress sets up an autoimmune reaction. That's why we have so much Hashimoto's, why we have so much MS, why we have so much autism. Because we have so many poisons locked up in the body that we can't get rid of it. We start attacking our own body, trying to get rid of the toxic accumulation. So we have new products we have developed, brand new to OHS, that have never existed on the planet before. So adrenal stress causes weight gain. Adrenal stress causes disturbed sleep. Disturbed sleep causes weight gain. Adrenal stress causes depression. So we're going to show you how to use OPTI-ADRENAL and OPTI-Thyroid working synergistically to get the balance we've never been able to get before in weight loss, energy production, emotional stability, etc. Now here's the negative feedback loop I want you to understand. Here's the HP axis. You see it? H for hypothalamus, P for pituitary, A for adrenal. They work in harmony or in complete disaster antagonism. And so when you're getting too much adrenal output from too much stress, you have a negative feedback loop from the glucocorticoids, cortisol, going back and shutting down the pituitary and shutting down the hypothalamus. Therefore, the adrenal tries to work harder on its own. It produces more catecholamines, the epinephrine and norepinephrine, and aldosterone to try to keep the body surviving, and it's just a constant vicious cycle. When we interrupt that vicious cycle with OPTI-ADRENAL, it's a whole new world. Because people with stress, GAS, can't digest. Oh, well, why don't we have digestion, pre-digestive formulas to give it to them? You understand the difference of what we have that we've never had before? Let's look at this magnification and accumulation of stress. I've had a hard day. Time commitments, can't keep up. Your CAs tell you you're getting behind. Finances, traffic, car broke down. Bad drivers, right? You said a bad word, going to work, somebody cut you off. Spiritual and emotional issues, family, work, environment. Insurance companies, poor payment, death, divorce, and taxes. And here it goes. All 6 lead to dysfunction. They're all added together, whether it's your body or mind. So chronic stress depletes the immune system by shrinking up the thymus and spleen. I told you this a minute ago. I'm going to tell you 10 times what we're talking about. Hormonal imbalances, nutrient deficiencies because the HPA axis is disrupted. Digestive dysfunction because of the ulceration and even spasms in the large and small intestine. Magnesium deficiency, sodium, potassium abnormalities due to the stress. We'll cover how that works in a minute. So just pick a number. What kind of symptoms could be caused from stress? Low sex drive, hypoglycemia, frequent illness, postural hypotension, difficulty focusing, allergies, sensitive to bright light, poor sleep, sweets, cravings, difficulty going to sleep, wakes up frequently, particularly in the morning, can't go back to sleep, the fatigue in the afternoon. I mean, the list is so large, you can't even cover them all. So the adrenal fatigue affects the thyroid, as we talked a minute ago. I told you I'm going to keep going slides over and over so you see it from a different picture. Also, this adrenal fatigue shuts down the thyroid, which yields blood sugar dysregulation, which makes you crave sweets. When you eat sweets, it causes more abnormality. So we just have this biological domino effect causing fatigue, cravings, weight gain, mood swings, and on and on. And this causes mitochondrial dysfunction. I thought Doug would tell you a minute ago he could, but he saved it for me. We have been asked to go ahead and make another mitochondrial product with the OHS nutrition. Doug and I have got it done. He had a wonderful product that had mitochondrial resuscitation, and of course we had one that was proven to be the best in the world, and now we've merged them together. And so it's going to be called Optimal Mito Force. And this is going to be out in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We have it all done. It's in the lab being put together now, and there's nothing can touch us anywhere close at all. So we can help bring this domino effect, stand them back up, get mitochondrial resuscitation. To remind you, the adrenals are an integral part of this adrenal system. They're also responsible for the hormones that we showed you a minute ago. There's 2 parts of the adrenals I want you to be rehearsed on here, the cortex and the medulla. The cortex is this outer wrapping. It's what produces cortisol, the most powerful anti-inflammatory hormone that there is. Cortisol controls inflammation, so it's a necessary thing to have. But when it gets out of control, it shuts everything down. The level of cortisol in the body affects allergies, wound healing, asthma, arthritis, lupus. I mean, any immune reaction or where the body's attacking itself, autoimmune is going to be involved there. The medulla, or the inner part of the adrenal, pours out epinephrine, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. These hormones speed up the body's metabolism in order to help us to cope with the stress. Now, if you look at the blue I have there, I was doing some research and reading what other peoples and researchers have said about adrenals, and I changed this sentence right out of their lab. They said these are the 2 most hormones in the body, the most important in the world. I said there are 2 of the most, but I actually diluted their statement. So the adrenals are in charge of cortisol, which we know is so important, and also adrenaline and norepinephrine. And epinephrine is beyond our understanding how many things this will help by taking up the adrenal to bring everything back into balance. These 2 balance the fight or flight response. There's a direct extension of this to the nervous system. It's a complex symphony or complete disharmony. You choose. It is orchestrated right straight to the brain through the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So here's your HPA axis. And the cortisol, the adrenaline, and the norepinephrine all tie together. And again, we talked about all the things that are people doing to sabotage themselves. These are what you, hopefully none of you're doing, and you're talking your patients out of it. Never before has it been any more important for us to understand. If you're going to really help somebody in this day and age, I mean, when I went into practice in 1971, I had patients that got out of wheelchairs in a couple of weeks. I mean, migraines would go away after 1 or 2 adjustments, and on, miracle after miracle after miracle. And the more patients I helped, the tougher they got. And now it's been another 44 years of people degenerating. You really have to look at each piece of this health puzzle. And its structure, electrical pollution, nutritional interference, allergies and sensitivities, emotional stress, and toxins. So that's why we have a 6 puzzle piece guide, and that turnkey thing in the center says we have a program to evaluate all 6 and treat all 6. So let's elaborate a little teeny bit. Being a chiropractor, I eat, sleep, and drink reestablishing structural integrity. But if you are using computers and Game Boys and everything all day long, and you're not balancing the electromagnetics, they will resubluxate almost before they get out of the office. In nutrition, there's a 5 subset. The first thing I do nutritionally is reset the adrenals and the general adaptive syndrome. The second thing we do, whether we're using blood tests or muscle testing, we evaluate which organs and systems need nutritional support. Then we reduce the infective organisms. And we also have another OHS product coming out. It's going to be called OPTI-Immune. Already we have incredible products that Doug had going on, but we are going to merge a viral and a bacterial product together called OPTI-Immune. Again, we think it'll be out in the next 30 days. Watch for that. And of course, enzymes. Doug has been a specialist on enzymes his entire nutritional career and has treated all the athletic teams and things he's worked with by improving digestion, assimilation, and elimination of toxins by having the plant enzymes. And of course, restore proper bowel flora. And the flora that again, Doug has 8 different constituents of it that make sure each aspect of the intestine that needs some acidophilus, some bifidus, etc., they're all in there at one time. So we're ahead of the game no matter what other company you've ever used before. Of course.
And I was going to mention something about that, Dr. John.
Please.
What Dr. John's talking about there is back in the day, me and just Dr. John, almost 20 years ago, we're speaking. We had a good mutual friend, the world's leading authority on probiotics, Dr. Kim Shahani, who has the most peer-reviewed papers ever written on the subjects of probiotics and patents on being able to stabilize them and through a cryogenic process be able to allow them to be passed through the gut and have the acids don't affect them. But it was really intriguing when we sat down and did the research to show that there are different bacteria that reside in different places within the bowels. And unless we put each of the right bacteria in a formula, we're going to leave gaps. So it's like with the puzzle piece on Dr. John's picture there, some of the pieces would be gone. We must make sure that we have the bifidus family, along with Acidophilus, the Bulgaricus, Thermophilus, and so on, because each one reside in a different area, and there's very specific amounts for how much is in the different areas of the intestines and so on. So it's very important to not get caught up in just one formula and some crazy number of bacteria in it, when really it's just going to help with one area of the bowel. So I think it's just important to understand how in-depth the research is on that formula.
Excellent, thank you. So at Homecoming, we'll be covering each one of these. We're going to have 3 to 4 classes going on simultaneously, and each one of these 6, whether you're very advanced or a beginner or you want your staff trained, Dr. Brett's going to be doing the basic group, and I'll be doing the advanced, and we'll be covering allergies and sensitivities. Randy Wrinkly will be there with the ASA, showing you how to do it computerized. We'll show you how to do it manual. And the heavy metals, we'll be showing you how to do that with the fruits and veggies that Doug has, and also new homeopathics that we're going to talk about here a little bit later. We have more power than we've ever had before. Now, because we talk about 6 interferences, and one of them is nutritional, and I said we have 5 cofactors in the nutritional area, and resetting the adrenals is it. So I've just outlined here. You can go back and look at this later on. But skipping meals, eating processed or junk food, not exercising, avoiding or neglecting relaxation, not getting enough sleep, going past your own fatigue level, etc. All of these burn those adrenals out. Where OPTI-ADRENAL, rest, yoga, meditation, swimming, things like that help to balance this out. Now this is very important, and I wish I was not an expert on this, but unfortunately I've done almost all of these at one time or another in my 68 years. When I lost Claudette, I did not want to take another breath. I just wanted to die with her and couldn't. Divorce, marital separation. Marital, isn't it interesting that right under death of a spouse, divorce is next? Good grief. Marital separation is just under that, but getting back together is just under that. Death of a close family member. I've lost both my parents, one of my brothers, my wife, a daughter. And it's just, I felt that going on in my body. If I had not had all the tools of the trade that we have, I wonder if I had just collapsed and would have given up many years ago. For personal injury, I broke my back 5 years ago. Okay, marriage is a stressor. Can you imagine that? Hey, I should have sent it to all of you. I saw a picture on the internet somebody sent me, and it showed a caveman holding his wife's hand, and he's talking to another caveman. He says, I'm going to teach her to talk. What harm could that cause, right? And so then we know that we can't live without each other, and but when we live with each other, we all have differences, and there's stressors. The loss of a job, jail term. I skipped that one, thank goodness. And retirement, I think I skipped that, having twins this later part of life. But those are major stressors. Now, Hans Selye wrote the book called Stress Without Distress that I mentioned earlier. But remember, there's 3 phases of it. Initially, the adrenals get hypertrophied, trying to keep up with it. Later, they plateau out, and finally, they exhaust. The thymus and spleen degenerate, and stomach and the small intestine ulcerates, along with the large intestine, like I mentioned earlier. Again, I'm going to go over and over it again. These are the nutritional things that we have in OPTI-ADRENAL. We have adrenal, pre-digested whole food, thymus, spleen, and stomach, along with the other herbs and backups and vitamins and minerals and nutrition that we have. High cortisol inhibits the conversion of T4 to T3, it actually decreases thyroid function from several different ways. It messes up blood sugar regulation, and the immune system is compromised and ulcerations form. So I'm going to say the same thing about 4 different times till you own this. So no matter when that patient walks in there, I don't care what their diagnosis is, you have to make sure the adrenals and the other aspects of the general adaptation syndrome are intact. So, well, what percentage of patients do you think need this kind of support? 90 to 95%. Do you know anybody that's not in distress? Do you know anybody that isn't married or wants to be married or hasn't had a death in the family or in divorce, or it's just, it goes on and on and on. So the first stage is alarm, then is resistance, and then is exhaustion. So let's look at it. Let's come right over here, and we put this together. I think it really gives you a good idea. Just going to the dentist is stressful. I've done that recently. I know what that's like. But the body rallies, the adrenals kick in, the thymus and spleen kick in, and you go back up, and then you're brought back to normal after you get out of the dentist's office. Then you get stuck in traffic. Then when you're in traffic, you get a phone call, something's gone wrong at the office. And this triggers an illness that you have. And then with the illness, maybe there's a death of a loved one. Doug has just gone through that in his family. So all of a sudden, you don't ever come back to normal again. You just keep ramping up. And you stay up here, you lose your job, or things go down, or insurance companies don't pay, or whatever happens, you can't get back to normal here. And so the adrenals, they whole hypertrophy, they begin to bomb out. The adrenals go bad, the ulceration starts, the spleen and thymus shrink, just like I said 3 times already here. And now you wind up down in here, past normal function, into hypofunction. Cortisol goes too high, DHEA goes low. When that happens, you go into exhaustion, and you start having all kinds of problems. So we're going to cover that again a little bit more, but let's look at the adrenal glands. Here's the kidneys, here's the adrenals, right, sitting on top of them, aren't they? They're not very big to have such a big job, are they? In fact, they only weigh about 5 to 6 grams, the size of 2 or 3 pinto beans together. It's amazing they can do what they do. Interestingly enough, research says they can get another 2 to 3 grams, in other words, 50% or a little bit more larger in the beginning stages, trying to meet with the stress we have going on. And they're related to how much hormone they have to secrete to get the job done. So what's the big deal? Well, Jesse Hanley, I'm going to let you read this later on. 2 different MDs, Schwartzbein and Hanley, basically say when the adrenals goes, everything else goes. It causes bad habits by eating sweets, bombs the adrenals out, insulin levels go up, cravings start, etc. Okay, this we put together many years ago. I've been teaching it now for almost 40 years to my patients, but we know much more about it now than we used to. This general adaptation syndrome causes cortisol to go high because of the stress. That lowers DHEA. Well, what? DHEA is the anti-stress, it's the anti-aging hormone. That's right. The more stress you have, the higher the cortisol goes, the more you age rapidly. Then with DHEA going down, you can't use your glucose properly, so now you're craving sugars to try to get more glucose, and then what that causes is insulin desensitization, diabetes, syndrome X, inflammation's been caused up here by DHEA going down. Now you have a junky diet because you're junking out, causes more malnutrition, more deficiency. Now that causes your collagen synthesis to go down, but you're breaking your protein and collagen down faster. Now you have poor wound healing. Now secretory IgA goes down. There's your protection at your intestinal level. That causes leaky gut. Now you get antigen penetration here. Now you get more allergies, more leaky gut. Circulating IgA goes up. Now there's more allergies. You set up autoimmune reactions in the body, and on and on and on. So that one is something you should get familiar with. Make a copy, show it to your patients, let them understand what's going on. And again, what kind of problems does it cause when the body's knocked out of a homeostasis pattern? Just pick a number. Anxiety, depression, sleeping pattern, ADD, colitis, muscle spasm, panic attack, infection, allergies. I mean, all of that is involved. Now, here's some new research that we have just run across this last year. Stress is obesity linked. Stress that leads to increased cortisol concentrations induces increased food intake. Stress then may contribute to abdominal obesity characterized by increases in the cortisol and the leptin concentrations. So you can become desensitized to leptin the same as you can be desensitized to insulin. And here's the bibliography right underneath that. GH and IGF-1 modulation of cortisol metabolism may underpin the pathogenesis of common disease such as central obesity. Again, too much stress, adrenal, and the whole GAS pattern causes the whole modulation of your growth factors. So when stress causes obesity, and they found now the more obese you are, the more depression you are, the more anxiety you have, the more sleep disturbance you have, the more psychotic illnesses you have because of this belly fat. And you can measure that by increased waist to hip ratio. Another study showed cortisol and belly fat are linked. Cortisol stimulates an enzyme in fat cells that increases visceral fat storage. That kind of bad fat causes more stress reaction that causes to eat worse, and we make more bad fats. Obesity increases free radicals. Several studies have been done showing how all the free radicals are increased as obesity increases. So belly fat leads to increased risk of insulin resistance, increased estrogen or estrogen dominance, aromatase, which converts male testosterone into estrogen, which causes prostate cancer in men. In women, it causes estrogen dominance with all the things from PCOS to angiotensin. The growth hormone goes down, so you age faster. Okay, it keeps on going on. TNF alpha alters the insulin signaling. Now, more insulin desensitization. Oxidative stress goes up, burns up all of our antioxidants. Glutathione goes down, there goes our protection. The liver is stressed out. Glycation goes up. Ages, as it's called. And isoprostanes go up. Interleukin-6 goes up. A risk of fatty liver, even though non-alcoholic induced. So this gets to be a pretty sad story unless you realize we have the answer. The answer is OPTI-ADRENAL, OPTI-Thyroid, balanced complete proteins, which we have in OHS, pre-digested food to take away the stress of your body. You think eating food that doesn't digest isn't stressful? You don't get it. So elevated markers when you have insulin resistance, inflammatory markers go up, including ferritin, uric acid, white cell counts, and they're finding uric acid. Oh, we always thought before it only had when we ate too many proteins that didn't break down. We're now finding that fructose is a major atom to here. And so when you're doing the SBN blood test or that computerized printout, when you see uric acid go high, you want to check their fructose intake. White cell counts are destroyed. Fibrinogen. I learned the hard way when Claudia had cancer from the radiation that the government gave us with atomic weapon testing, that the cancer produces fibrinogen, which makes you have clots faster, and that can kill you faster than the cancer cell, it can itself. C-reactive protein goes up as well, and you become insulin resistant further. There's the research study beneath that. Now, I'm going to go down to the bottom first here because I think this is really important. When you have elevated cortisol, this causes inflammation. What causes elevated cortisol? Chronic stress. What kind of stress? All 6 factors we talked about, which can create metabolic syndrome, which creates diabetes, heart disease, neurologic disorders, autoimmune disorders, cancer, and thyroid problems. It doesn't stop there. When this TNF alpha goes up, then we have inflammation, atherosclerosis, IL-6 goes up, fatigue, cortisol, sleep disturbances, TSH goes down, ability to concentrate goes down, autoimmune diseases start, obesity with the metabolic syndrome, dementia, insulin resistance with all the CRP and the other things that happen with that. You say, wow, that is a vicious cycle. What'd you say? Stop that? OPTI-ADRENAL, OPTI-Thyroid, complete proteins, and desensitization of all the toxins with the OPTI detox formulas, both metal and viral. We're going to show you in a minute. So, gang, we have more answers than any profession and any nutritional company can possibly give the people on planet Earth. It's pretty exciting to see what we have going on. And this is all hardcore research. Sleep deprivation also shows they call weight gain. And when you have weight gain, then you have all those other things we just mentioned. And they point out in this study, you go back and look at the less sleep you have, the more problem it is. 7 to 8 hours a day is optimal. Down to 5 and 6, you're just not getting enough. 4 are really in trouble. All right? How can you check for adrenal problems? Well, we can use 24-hour urine. We can use salivary tests from Dr. Mead and Labrex. That's what I use. I stay in close contact with Dr. Mead all the time. And he's going to be to homecoming to help us out, to demonstrate how that works. We're going to do a webinar with you in 2 weeks, so be sure and tune into that. But one thing that's very simple to do is just ask people, when you're sitting down or lying down, if you stand up fast, you get dizzy, that's adrenal fatigue. When you shine a light in somebody's eye, the pupil should get smaller. If it bounces back open, that's a pupillary reflex. That's adrenal fatigue. When you take their blood pressure, when they're lying down, optimal is 120/80. When they stand up, it should raise 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury. If it goes to 130, that's normal. If it even stays at 120, that's abnormal. If it drops 10, you're really in trouble. That can tell you the degree of problems that you have. It's good to do it both on the right and left side of the body. Take that blood pressure and see what happens. Because one side of the body can be off compared to the other side. And that, many times, is craniosacral, visceral manipulation, spinal adjusting, makes all the difference in the world. So when you also, those of you who do kinesiology, and we'll have whole courses on that at homecoming, just check any muscle. Let's just check a group muscle like a straight arm muscle. You check it out in the strong, you stretch the joint capsule, getting home with that arm and pulling on it. If that muscle goes weak, it should get stronger because the adrenals secrete the hormones that allow it to strengthen that muscle. If it gets weaker, it means you're already in the fatigue stage. And again, 9 out of 10 people you test, including yourself, with the amount of stress that you're under, practicing and taking care of other people, will go weak. You just have them take the OPTI-ADRENAL, open the capsule, dump it on the tongue. Instantly, they will go stronger, 99.9% of the time. And this is a real teaching tool to show the patients they have the fatigue. And that's where a lot of injuries come from, too. All these athletes out there should be taking OPTI-ADRENAL at the quarter or the half, third quarter, and or basketball is just halftime and afterwards, because it resets those adrenals, reduces the stress, and keeps them better at all levels. Now we put down here the dosages for OPTI-ADRENALs, like 1 to 2 tablets 2 to 3 times a day. Should be capsules, veggie caps, because it is so potent because it's pre-digested. I'm usually only having people take 1 at a time, morning and noon. If they still have problems, I'll go up 3 times a day. Really bad people sometimes will call for 6 a day short term, but not often. So this is what the formulation looks like here, the OPTI-ADRENAL. All the nutrition is the side here. We're going to blow this up for you a little bit bigger in a minute and talk about them step by step. So you can see how many different products we have put in this one formulation. And again, I am using the same milligrams, but because it's pre-digested, because it's whole food organic, it's up to 300% more effective. We have time, I'll show you some testimonials from Dr. Hancock has mentioned and sent us a testimonial after homecoming last year. He started on these products, and he found out the average person was taking 30 to 60% less numbers of tablets to get the same job done, or capsules, because of the pre-digested and the organic whole food aspect of it. So these are the milligrams in each aspect of here, and there's a very specific reason we put in what we do to make this happen. The whole food culture media, Doug, could you cover that just briefly for us? What is food culture media, and what is this OptiBlend pre-digestion system?
Well, the best way to explain is to kind of start with your formulas and others that use different ingredients that we know work, but we know that unless the body can take and convert them into a dextrorotatory spin molecule, in other words, an organic molecule, they're not going to be able to get the job done. So some patients, they work, some they don't, some needed more, some less, because we weren't able to guarantee that the nutrients being given were absorbed at the cell level on an organic level, a dextro spin level. And what the whole food culture media does is guarantees that every nutrient in the formula is whole food bound, and also that they are pre-digested, and that's where the OptiBlend comes in. So now we can ensure that we have super high potency levels of whole foods, ensuring they're whole foods and that they're organic and dextrorotatory spin, but also adding the enzymes and the organic minerals and the flora in there in a special blend to pre-digest them so that they can be delivered at the cell level no matter what the patient's condition is. And it always drives us crazy when we look and say, look, here's a healthy person and here's the absorption rates based on the research. Now you're going to expect a person that's sick that has adrenal issues, thyroid issues, digestive issues, to absorb the nutrients at that level at 30–40%, it's not going to happen. And so now we're able to bring it up to the 100% level and guarantee the absorption through the pre-digestion, and as Dr. John says, the organic soup, the matrix to ensure that every nutrient and every formula is whole food, dextrorotatory spun, so that the body does not have to do extra work in order to have it be a life-giving molecule.
So that means all these other companies that I used to work with don't have this capability. So if they get something that's methylated, they have to use a synthetic process to get that methylation. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. And, we all did the best we could, but now that we're able to get this research and be able to prove it and have the backing, it just changes the whole ballgame.
Do any other companies have this capability?
They don't. We have we're the ones that developed it, and we're very excited about it this time. There's no doubt that we hopefully will change the industry, and everyone will try to start at least moving that direction. But for now, it's the only one on the market.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, keep that patent pretty tight. We don't care if we're the best. The whole culture media is 341 milligrams in each one of. They make this up. But this is what's in the adrenal. I'm not going to do this quite to the extent of the thyroid product, but green tea extract, B vitamins, herba mate leaf are all in that whole food culture media. The organic vegetable blend has yeast and peas and alfalfa leaf and right on down the line. So that's all listed in there as well. But the probiotics, here's the 8 different ones that belong in there. OPTI blend delivery system, all the starches and proteins and fats are all broken down. So again, nobody has this but us. And that's unique to all the products that we develop, and every single one of them is made this way. So the OPTI-ADRENAL is synergistic. Everything I do is synergistic. You rarely see a product I make that's just vitamin E or just C. There are some products that we use like that, but more than often, we're going to use glandulars, vitamins, chelated minerals, antioxidants, phytonutrients, and those phytonutrients are called adaptogens. So if something's hyper, it brings it down to normal. If it's hypo, it brings it up to normal. So we work with all this in the general adaptation syndrome. And each nutrient is designed to work with the other nutrients to give that whole synergistic approach where nothing's left untouched. We're treating the causes, not the symptoms of the problem. Again, Hans said this, the stomach, the spleen, the thymus, the adrenals, the parotid gland are all involved. And the reason we use parotid, in fact, we have 80 milligrams of parotid and only 25 milligrams of adrenal. The reason we do that is because the parotid glands tag the nutrient to tell the body whether there's a good guy or a bad guy. In the adrenal, we don't put high amounts of adrenal because we can use our product no matter where in the general adaptation syndrome they are. In other words, if they're just acutely stressed and they're in the alarm phase, 25 milligrams is fine. If they're in the stage where they're really screaming up there and keeping up and haven't collapsed yet, if you give 100 milligrams, 200, 300, 400 milligrams of adrenal, like some people try to do, you actually make them worse. But then when they plateau out on the other side, you can take 25 milligrams or more, but because we have them always synergistic with the other glandular support here and the other nutrients that we have in this product, it works for all 3 stages. Only this type of a product can do that. It can work in all 3 areas. Wally Schmidt talked about how, in his experience, he would have to test everybody to know how much to give them. But we formulated this synergistically, so no matter which alarm phase you're in, or which one of the general adaptation phases you're in, that you're in good shape. So there's vitamin C in this product, and the vitamin C is found more in the adrenal gland than anywhere else in the body. It maintains and promotes the thymic hormone to actually help as an antioxidant and produce the immune system. It recycles other hydrogen donors such as vitamin E. If you just get one antioxidant together, many times it will become oxidized itself and become a toxin. So we have the C's and the E's and the essential fatty acids all together where that doesn't take place. I'm going to skim over these, but you're going to go back and look at these because I put so much research in here for you. The B vitamins are essential for proper functioning of the endocrine glands, most notably the adrenals and thyroid. So the B vitamins that we have in here, again, are organically methylated. They're already broken down to the active state where they do their most job without your body having to do it, in case you have a genetic SNP that does not allow you to do that, or deficiencies of any kind. The B vitamins are needed for a healthy liver as well, so this supports the liver at the same time. Bs are also necessary for normal functioning of the nervous system. Big time. Have to do with the muscle tone, gastrointestinal tract. We have tyrosine. It's a precursor to epinephrine and norepinephrine and thyroxine in the cell. Zinc and chromium are included. They're necessary for proper pancreas functioning, blood sugar balance, and for thyroid function. Chlorella. It's a potent binder of heavy metals and helps to detoxify the body. We have potassium. It's essential in the proper adrenal functioning and must stay in balance with sodium for nerve and muscle function. And you will find out when you're doing blood or muscle testing or salivary testing, you look at the sodium to potassium ratios, and they're off. The more off they are, the more trouble you're into. Rhodiola is one of the major products that we have that is this adaptogen we're talking about. It grows in very tough regions of the world, and it helps to balance the adrenals, heal the adrenals, and it can balance you out whether you're too high or too low or in the middle. It's an incredible product. Now, magnesium, remember earlier I said really listen close when we hit magnesium, because stress causes magnesium loss. When it's chronic enough, it becomes so severe it disrupts the entire hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal axis from this deficiency. It doesn't stop there. The adrenal glands are governed by the ratio of sodium to magnesium. So the loss of magnesium causes initial rise of sodium and then eventually the complete collapse and deficiency of sodium and magnesium. Well, no wonder we put it in the product. At this point, you have a classic adrenal burnout people talk about. And so if they just take adrenal glandular that only digests a very small amount, maybe 20% if you're lucky, unless it's ours, but it can actually cause them to get worse because it's driving it. How, where we have all the factors to take care of adrenal burnout. Proanthocyanidins or grapeseed extract, they reduce the effect of stress. It's a very good antioxidant. It's a great concentration of vitamin E, flavonoids, oleolinic acid, phenolic procyanidins, and they're called OPCs, or oligomeric procyanidins. They increase healing and repair. Lemon bioflavonoids complements your vitamin C, helps capillary permeability, blood flow, anti-allergy, anti-inflammatory effect. Wow, no wonder that's such an incredible product. And again, it addresses all these alarm resistance and exhaustive areas at every single level. So again, there's the different nutrients that we have in there, the milligrams that are there, all whole food, organic, pre-digested. Nothing like it in captivity. So we have 90 veggie caps in OPTI-ADRENAL, and simple. Your cost is 15, sells for 30. You say, how in the world, wait a minute, how can you possibly sell that product to us doctors for $15 when you have all whole food, organic, pre-digested nutrients? Well, the key is we're different from any other company you know out there. Doug has started a format to where he sells straight from him to you. Now think about that. All the other companies you know about, there's distributors that contact you, don't they? Well, the company, it costs them, let's say it costs them $5 to manufacture a product. They sell it to their distributors for $10. The distributors sell it to you for $20, and you sell it to your patient for $40. That's the way it works. Where we manufacture it, Doug and I are now partners in this. He's a major partner. I'm the junior kid on the block. But we're partners in OHS here. And when we make the product, whatever it costs us, we pass it on to you without the middleman. That's why we're so inexpensive, but so much better than anybody else because of the way it's done. All right, so let's jump from adrenals and go to thyroid here. And we're a lot further than half along, so don't panic on me here. Hang tight here because we want to cover a lot of things very rapidly. The OPTI-Thyroid is just like the adrenal. It has all those different products in there, as well as the blends that allow it to be whole food and organic. OPTI-Thyroid is very balancing for hormone support. Keep it in mind for emotional problems, hair loss, fatigue, blood calcium magnesium problems, low temperature, people that are cold all the time, weight gain. And when you look in the shower and you find that hair is in the bottom of the drain, you better start thinking adrenal and thyroid. And now hopefully you understand why we always think adrenal and thyroid together. But they have tyrosine, iodine, selenium, and other micronutrients that help in the conversion of T4 to T3. To remind you again, T4 is the wood, T3 is the fire. But it takes selenium and other cofactors to allow this to be changed and used in the body, including liver function, including probiotics. Our B vitamins are organically methylated. Keep that in mind. And they are present to support energy production, nerve function, and regeneration. Now, here's the way other companies, good companies, that take B12 and B12 by itself and folic acid by themselves, if you can't break them down, they become poisonous. So they use synthetic processes to take them from cyanocobalamin to cyanocobalamin to decyanization to cobalamin 2 reductant and then SAM-E methyltransfer down to methylcobalamin. Where in our product, organically that takes place, and all you ever get is organic methylcobalamin. The body doesn't ever have the other to deal with. We have CE beta-carotene as antioxidant in this product. We have chelated minerals, choline, betaine hydrochloride, and glutamic acid. Further support for metabolic functions. Glandular support, parotid, thymus, spleen, adrenal, and pituitary. So let's say somebody doesn't know or doesn't have enough adrenal. We always put adrenal, pituitary, parotid, thymus, and spleen in this product because we're one of the first to start talking about this over 20 years ago, how if the adrenals were fatigued, the thyroid couldn't support. And I found this through muscle testing and clinical practice before it ever came out in the research and the literature. So that's why that product has it in there. It's one of the largest endocrine glands in our whole body. It does regulate metabolism, controls weight, and it burns fat in the body. Thyroid hormones are involved in growth and development in every cell in the body. You have to have thyroxine in every cell of the body. If you don't have it, it can be linked to fibromyalgia, irritable bowel, acne, eczema, gum disease, infertility, autoimmune, ADD, ADHD, MS, ALS, pick a number. Now, we're not saying it's the cause, we're saying it's related. So we don't treat the disease, we don't treat the symptoms, we treat the cause. So you have to get the adrenals back online, make sure the thyroid is working well, along with the other things that we do to help the patient get well by increasing proper function. Again, T3 comes from T4, and it requires very specific nutrition to do that, which we have included in OPTI-ADRENAL and OPTI-Thyroid. If your thyroid's out of balance, you're out of balance. Your insulin, your cortisol, your sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone are all out of balance if thyroid's out of balance. And if the thyroid's out of balance and your adrenals are out of balance, then your nervous system's out of balance. So we work all this together. I just threw this in here because in face diagnosis, in tongue diagnosis, in palm diagnosis, and foot diagnosis, you find out every part of the body is related to every other part of the body. And you can see how important the liver is here, here, and here, even on the way the facial features are, and kidney, the kidneys for detoxification, spleen and liver again here. So if the liver is toxic, you're toxic all over. But if you don't have proper adrenal support and thyroid support, the liver can't keep up. So 90% of the hormone produced by your thyroid is the T4, the adaptogen that's converted to T3, mainly by the liver, by selenium enzymes, and also the gut and other areas. So we address the gut and the liver on every patient. So T3 is inadequate, then even the nucleus, even the DNA compromises down to the bottom. T3 is critically important. One of its functions is to tell the nucleus of the cell to send messages to your DNA to increase metabolism by burning fat. Well, by burning the toxins, you can lower cholesterol levels, regrow hair, maintain proper weight balance. So the 6 interferences all can be here. Whether it's a structural problem, a nutritional problem, or an allergy problem, that stops this conversion. So we address all 6 on every patient. Imbalance can lead to a series of complications, including thyroid cancer, hypothyroidism, and hyperthyroidism, which the literature tells us are 3 of the most common and prevalent thyroid-related diseases. Again, we don't treat the disease, we treat function to balance it out. So we'll again cover all 6 interferences in January homecoming, very heavy duty. Hypothyroid is when it caused when the T4 is not converting to T3, but as you know, mainly medical doctors in the regular allopathic world measure thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH, to determine if they need to have thyroid support. and you'll find out that many, many patients are iodine deficient causing this problem or toxic causing this problem. And the TSH is a pituitary hormone, not even a thyroid hormone, so it's inadequate to really do all of the testing. So we do temperature testing, or we do other testing to balance out and evaluate that thyroid. The other major factor, which we've gone into great detail in the past with different webinars, is chlorine, fluorine, and bromine inhibit the conversion of T4 to T3. They actually act as competitive factors, don't allow iodine to get in there. They disrupt iodine deposition or interaction through there. So we have developed OPTI and Viro Detox. This is a whole new world. I have made individual like bromine, chlorine, fluorine, lead, mercury, all that before, but I found a whole new company that could do this for us, so you only have to have 2 bottles now, and we have all these different nutrients here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 factors in one nutrient that helps to detoxify that many different areas in your body. So these down on the bottom are precursors to toxic substances that are formed there, and they help the body to detoxify at a greater level. So we're going to show you how to do this at homecoming, but just if you're a muscle tester, you just test the muscle. If it's strong, then you just took one of these 2 bottles next to the body will make them go weak. I've never seen it where it didn't. And then you just measure 1, 2, or 3 drops under the tongue. They then, where that bottle used to make them weak, it'll now go strong. And then you'll be able to localize area on the brain and on the body that were strong before, it will now go weak. You laser that, and that triggers those poisons out of the body. After you do that once, you then check the OPTI and Viro Detox or OPTI Metals Detox. It can go back and forth between the two, and the body will then choose another one. I usually do 3 different times of putting the drops under the tongue, then measuring where the weakness is, lasering it. And we're watching people get immediate result from migraines, headaches, back pain, kidney problems. And we have a young girl who was referred to me, 25 years old, in a wheelchair. And then finally she got into a walker. And now I saw her this week. She walked up and down my stairs. She used to have to just slide down. Here in my home office, I'm downstairs, and so I had no way to get her down there. She would slide down like a little slithering snake to get down there and crawl back up the stairs. Now she walks up those stairs. This was a very important part, as was the Beamer, as was the other nutrition that we use. Yes, she's on OPTI-ADRENAL. Yes, she's on OPTI-Thyroid and on the longevity and methylated Bs. It has been like an answer to prayers to have these products come along. So we've talked about the thyroid stimulating hormone. Use more than that. Do blood tests, do temperature testing and see what's happening there. Identify if that thyroid is working right. So the kind of symptoms you're going to get is tired, fatigue, depression, don't have enough energy to exercise, so you don't exercise, so it gets worse. Tired head, especially people say thyroid and head problems, whether it's headaches, or they feel their head foggy, that can be thyroid. Falling asleep after you sit down. Weight gain, especially midsection, can't get rid of. Rough, scaly skin, dry, coarse skin, skin inflammation, irritation, eczema. So we also add the optimal essential fatty acids. Whole webinars have been done on that. Get the literature. If you're not signed up with OHS, call Jason tomorrow at the office. He'll help you get signed up, and so you get your discount and start getting things going. We'll look for hair loss, cold sensitivity, and the way we do the body temperature, we take the best basal metabolic temperature is under the armpit. Baroda balance, I thought, was better because if there's a slight temperature orally, it can elevate it, but axillary it won't. And he said you should be 97.8 to 98.2. If you're not, you're low in thyroid, in his opinion. So measure the adrenal. And there's iodine in that, and we're also working on a new iodine product with selenium and molybdenum that Doug and I are working on right now. Very important that we detoxify the body, detoxify that liver, support the gut with probiotics to allow that to happen. Iodine and thyroid nutrition support, so OPTI-Thyroid for the thyroid. OPTI-Liver Kidney, in fact, I'm going to show you, one of our certified doctors sent me a picture. They did the liver kidney cleanse only for a half a day, and they passed over 150 parasites. I have a picture of that. I'll put that in the next one that we can show you. It's just scary what came out. Also, gallstones came out on that. a half a day, gut support, optimal Opti cleanse and repair, along with the probiotics that we talked about, Optimal Flora Plus. Most cancer patients, according to Broder Barnes and also Dr. Yoshimizu Mizu, said in his book, The Fourth Treatment for Medical Refugees, that lower basal metabolic goes along with people with cancer. Sorry I slaughtered that name for you Japanese people there. If there's a decline in body temperature, listen to this, if there's a decline in body temperature by 1 degree Celsius, you lose 40% of your functioning immune system. Conversely, if we're doing what we're talking about here by the proper nutrition and adjusting and detoxification, if we can raise it 1 degree Celsius, we increase the immune system by 40%. So those people with chronic immune conditions, don't skip the OPTI-ADRENAL and thyroid, OPTI-Thyroid. They're very, very powerful here. And again, if the immune system is compromised, that means it's going to overreact and you're going to set up allergies and even autoimmune conditions. So if you're checking for the thyroid, and again, we have a whole program where we teach you how to use blood tests. If you've never done them before, the computer will tell you what to do and educate you and the patient at the same time through the SBN program. Jason can bring you up to speed on that. We'll talk about, we have a whole course for it at homecoming. But also check for the thyroid antibody testing. Take for thyroid peroxidase. Check for the anti-thyroid globulin antibodies. This helps us to determine if there's autoimmune reactions like Hashimoto's going on in the body. All right. So the accepted testing of blood, temperature is good, case history is good, but the real accepted way is blood test. So if you don't know anything about that, call Jason. There's the number in white, 866-338-4883, and he'll introduce you to the Brimhall Advantage SBN program. Even if you know Dr. Merkel, you want to sign up from us, it'll change his. We would beat him up to where he lets our doctors in $200 cheaper than if you sign up for him direct. So we've really worked to get you the best prices available out there. You can go to brimhall.com, and all this information is on there. We post the webinars, different things, seminars coming up, and these reports are color-coded, and it gives you the right nutrition. So if you're using SBN right now and you're not using OHS nutrition, just call them up and say, hey, I'd like to have you give me the report for OHS. Now, here's the special that Doug has offered. So write this number down, 800-890-4547, and ask for the Energy 20 special. In the next 2 days, the next 48 hours, or use online, and you get 20% off the Adrenal and the True Energy Pack. Can't be a deal like that. We're already the least expensive, best product in the world, and now we have a special.
And Dr. Brimhall, I think since you brought the thyroid in, we'll throw that in too. And I want to mention to the doctors that, the Opti formulas from Dr. Brimhall have only, had a special one time. Their price is their price. And so this is a really special situation to have the OPTI-ADRENAL, and he'll throw the OPTI-Thyroid in too with the 20% off, plus the True Energy Pack that was just created today. So take advantage of that. It's an ability for you to get 20% off of wholesale, so that it really doesn't put any type of risk for you to try the formulas. I think that once you understand, as Dr. Brimhall's explained, to be organic methylated, to be pre-digested and whole foods, that you'll be able to have them use them and be able to see great results. But this kind of makes it a no-brainer to be able to try them and without risk at such a low price for a short time.
So we're highlighting Dr. Hancock here, where he stated 33 to 66% in the last product to get the same effect he had before. And also, he's been working with Clark Tilley in the Thrive system. He feels like that has greatly helped him maximize his sales and education of his patients. Dr. Wardy of Texas, both of these guys are guys that have been doing our work for a while. Dr. Wardy is certified, and he sent this to me right after homecoming last year. He said he sold more nutrition once he switched to OHS than he ever had before. He said he's getting better results than any other company he's ever used. He said he can't even keep it in stock. And we want to help him out on that. Of course, my son, Dr. Brett, uses the products and has found out they test, and I checked today. In fact, yesterday I saw a patient that was a lot of problems. And I checked them, and to be honest, I wanted to check, would OPTI-Thyroid be the best? Would Max Thyroid be the best? Would products from the other company be the best? and OPTI-Thyroid just smoked him. I mean, there was no comparison in muscle testing. And that's what we have found all the way down. Well, gang, we appreciate you hanging with us here. Everybody's pretty much sitting here the whole time. We've gone overboard a little bit. We look forward to seeing you at homecoming. Watch for the other webinars. Go back and learn more about the Beamer. Come and learn about peripheral neuropathy. Increase your income. Jesse, that we highlighted, made $87,000 his first month doing the peripheral neuropathy protocol. $120,000 the second month, and using just that above anything else he did. So peripheral neuropathy, along with what else we're talking about, but our products work very best with them, so does the Beamer. Good night. God bless. See you soon.